I think, it might have been a little naive of me. I mean, thank God it worked out, but I had this idea that, between my cinematography skills and everything else, that I could cheat what I needed to, that we'd get her as good as we could, and then I could put stunt actors in. The reality is it had to be her. And thankfully she did get there. She put in the work. She did all the things. I made her almost like look me in the eyes and pinky swear that she was going to like go full, Meryl Streep, like Christian Bale on this role and like really transform. And she did.
Hello, and welcome back to The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America. In this episode, the story of the first American woman gold medalist in boxing is explored in director Rachel Morrison's biographical drama, The Fire Inside. The film tells the story of Claressa Shields, a boxer from Flint, Michigan, who pushes past all limitations to become the first American woman to win the Olympic gold in boxing. But even at the pinnacle of success, Claressa has to reconcile with the fact that not all dreams are created equal, and her real fight has only just begun. In addition to The Fire Inside, Morrison's other directorial credits include an episode of the TV miniseries Homemade, and episodes of the series The Mandalorian, American Crime Story, Hightown, and The Morning Show. Following a screening of the film at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, Morrison spoke with director Elizabeth Banks about filming The Fire Inside. Listen on for their spoiler-filled conversation.
I wanted to start off by just acknowledging how special it is that you exist. The first Academy Award nominated cinematographer. That's a woman. Less than, I want to say around 90% of all films are directed by dudes. And so me and you get to sit up here. We are really rare. And I just wanted to acknowledge that starting off because this is very cool. I'm so excited for you and I'm excited to be here with you.
Thank you so much. And I feel the same. I've in the time we've known each other, you've become a legendary director as well and showrunner and all the things. And there aren't enough of us. So.
No. So thank you all for being here and for supporting the film as well and the DGA and being here. So I want to start off by saying that one of my favorite things about the film, which is, for lack of a better genre, is a sports movie. There's an athlete with a big dream, works hard. There's training sequences. There's a coach. They go to the big thing and that's not the end of the movie. The structure.
If anything, it's almost like the start of the heart of the film.
Yeah. The structure was so interesting to me that it's really about somebody who, despite working as hard as the real, by the way, I love that her story deserves to be told. That was my number one thought at the end of the film. I thought, wow, that is a story that deserved to be told. Claressa Shields is an incredible human being and an athlete and a U.S. Olympian. And it was really cool. But she obviously worked in a system that was not built for her, that didn't know what to do with her, that when she went through it, she had an expectation and that system was like, oh no, we've never seen someone like you. And I imagine that struck you as a theme that you wanted to explore. Can you talk a little bit about being a unicorn in your own way?
Yeah. I mean, I think first and foremost, to your point, like her story deserves to be told. And I had the same reaction reading the script. I was like, how do I not know this amazing like athlete? And I follow sports. I play sports. You do too. To be in that world and not have heard of her felt like a disservice to the world. But secondly, I think to your point, yeah, I mean, I being the exception to the rule means that you're always, I think to be a female DP, it's like, it's not enough to just be good at what you do. It's how you carry yourself. It's how you dress. It's how you people actually like wonder if I can carry handheld carry camera, whether it's in the shower with you or anywhere. And it's like, I'm like, of course, like, and just all the extra kind of hoops you have to jump through based on the world's perception of you. And so I guess that was definitely a way in for me because I did know it, much to my chagrin as well.
Was it you? Forgive me if this was not your story. Maybe it's someone else's story, but I love this story, which is 2 women in the morning got into the van. This is your story, right?
It was me and Lisa Satriano.
Yes.
It was on.
Oh, I love Lisa. I've worked with Lisa too. Dang it. I've been doing this too long.
We were talking on the way up that we have my AD, who's amazing, Sarah Buell, who did this movie, worked with Liz on Miss America.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not a coincidence that women hiring women and supporting women and all the great things. But, so Lisa and I were in the van on the pickups to Black Panther. So it was not Teamsters that knew us. Ryan had given us wrap gifts. And I think because we were like opening the gifts in the office, we were late to set. And we get in this van and we're like, he's not leaving. And we're like, we got to go. And he's like, I'm waiting for the DP and the first AD.
It was them. They were in the van, guys. They were just sitting there waiting to go. I love that story. Okay, this is the DGA. People here direct. They like to know what actually. So you're looking to direct. You've got. You've done really all you can do as a DP. I think you get to the pinnacle of that career. You want to direct. What were you looking for in a script? Why this one?
It actually wasn't as simple as me wanting to direct. I think I just wanted to tell good stories. And so at some point I opened, it wasn't even like I wouldn't have necessarily wanted it to be the pinnacle as a cinematographer either. I just wasn't. First of all, I think I always wanted to make big dramas and nobody's making big dramas anymore. So it's like the $100 million movies that were the tentpoles when I grew up were the Shawshank Redemptions and the Road to Perditions, and now they're superhero films. And that wasn't where I wanted to be. So I was like, okay, well, let's just open my mind a little bit to like where are the good stories, whether it's as a director or as a DP. And, this came to me kind of by way of Alicia, who brought it to Barry. It was based on a documentary called T-Rex. Alicia Holmes brought the documentary to Barry and had him write the script. Barry always knew he wanted a female director for this project. But I was saying, like, actually, if Barry had wanted to direct it and brought it to me to shoot, I probably would have shot it. Like, I just want these stories to exist in the universe and like to be play some role in helping tell those stories. So in this case, it came to me as a director. And I think because there were ways that I saw myself in, ways that were things that were relatable to me. And because, like we were saying, like I feel like it's not enough just to entertain. Like I want to have something more to say with the work that I do. And so it felt additive in the universe. I felt additive to it. And then, these things you leave your families, it takes, it takes a toll, like just years of your life. So it has to be worth it. And for me, this story felt worth it.
Can I ask you, because I know when I'm reading things and I get seduced by great writing, and Barry Jenkins is one of the all-time great writers. So I imagine this script was a beautiful read, but to direct something means to turn those words into a visual language. And so did you see the movie right away? Like what was it about it visually that excited you?
I think that's exactly it. Like I don't usually when I read a script, I don't have a clear vision for it. And sometimes I have to talk my way into it, or like find my way into it. And I actually did, like with this script, I could see that opening drone shot from the words on the page. I could see the prom scene. I mean, some of it was also, I'd seen the documentary and, that is the vibe of a Flint prom. But like, I had a much more clear and singular vision from the outset. And that was how I knew that I was right for it. And I think it was this combination of my background in shooting action and having, some spectacle. Like the movie is a blend of spectacle and intimacy. And these are the things that, it's exciting as a cinematographer or as a director to get to do action sequences and, be out like technocrane in the ring, like having fun. But then also the heart of the movie again is like in these small, dramatic, intimate moments. And like that, I could see those too. So yeah.
I love that. Can you talk a little about pre-production? Just how did you find these incredible actors? I mean, you and I are huge fans of Brian Tyree Henry. Ryan is a discovery for me. And what convinced you? I mean, what were you looking for? I imagine you were. How much did they train? Like, what was the background? How did it work?
So we spent a while really combing the world for athletes who could act and actors who are like natural athletes and could prove it. And the reality is they're almost like, it's like pointing up and down at the same time. Like, as you can probably.
Yeah. Have you gone to high school?
Exactly.
They're not the same.
One club or the other. And so once I kind of honed in on the fact that we needed to, I mean, this is such a dramatic film. It's like, okay, yeah, it's a sports movie, but really it's a drama. And so I needed somebody who could handle, obviously, the like nuance of the performance. And I think, it might have been a little naive of me. I mean, thank God it worked out, but I had this idea that, between my cinematography skills and everything else, that I could cheat what I needed to, that we'd get her as good as we could, and then I could put stunt actors in. And thank God I didn't have to, because, the way that I ended up wanting to shoot it was like so immersive, so subjective in the ring. There would have been no way to to cheat it with stunt performers. And also shooting in Toronto where we were, couldn't find a stunt performer who even looked like her. Like, the reality is it had to be her. And thankfully she did get there. She put in the work. She did all the things. I made her almost like look me in the eyes and pinky swear that she was going to like go full, Meryl Streep, like Christian Bale on this role and like really transform. And she did.
Yeah, she really did. It's amazing. What do you want to say about like putting together a day, like the day-to-day of, did you rehearse much besides the training that she obviously had to do? But like, how were you talk about this as a drama and as being so emotional. And I think so much of that is in the physicality of what you did. I mean, I really thought you did a great job creating, yes, we're seeing things on people's faces, but there's also a lot of moments of like, what is it like in her house, with those people? What is the like, he's not a father to her, but there is intimacy between them. So can you talk a little bit about just if there was an exploration of that before you guys started shooting and on the day?
Yeah. So somewhat. I mean, the thing is, like, I'm still learning and growing as a director. I didn't come up in, school for directing. I haven't taken all the classes. I did take one acting for directors class. I'm a terrible actress. It's like not ever going to happen for me. But it also gave me so much more respect and like empathy for what actors put themselves through. So I think I'm still often, and I actually think that this probably won't change, but like, I look to my especially lead performers to see how they like to work. Some people love to rehearse and some people feel like it's beating, you're sort of beating the instinct out of it. And maybe at some point I will have a methodology where I'm like, this is how I want to do it. But for now, I'm going to lean on the people who have been trained in this and do it, a lot. And in this case, I think, Brian wasn't particularly keen in like over rehearsing. But we also didn't have time. I mean, this is like it's a studio indie, like it was definitely every day you're just trying to make the day. So we would do a little like the bigger scenes. I think we did a little pre-rehearsing before we started shooting, kind of just to feel them out and even get a sense, like, because it is like a sine curve with a lot of the more dramatic moments to really understand like how far do we want to take this, versus this other scene and kind of hear it in the room. But beyond that, I think it was more like the usual, block rehearse, maybe tweak a few things and then get ready to start shooting. And then we'd actually, I think, play in the shooting where, let's take it, especially for those scenes, because we do have a lot of emotionality. Like, let's go too far here. And then let's try one where we strip it way back. And then later in the edit, we can sort of figure out, where we were like, I mean, literally there was like, I think I had to choose between single tears on the mom. She like had the single tear in the pawn shop. She also had a single tear when she was watching her daughter win the Olympic gold medal. And like, I'm glad I had them both, it was like the Sophie's choice of single tears. But so, and
I like the restraint of choosing one over the other. Like, what is the moment for her?
And actually, to take it back to your initial question about the casting, I mean, that's the other thing. I think so much is in the choices you make with casting. And like, Olanuke, who's actually a local Torontonian actress who plays the mom, like she just, in the same way that Ryan made herself undeniable, like that was the role I was the most nervous about because it was the one that was really skating on the could have become tropey. And she brought in so much, again, nuance and like layering that you really believed, the complexity of that relationship, which is true, is, this mother who's very well-intentioned and very flawed, and I think that's actually true for all the characters, including our leads, which is what I loved about them, is that's reality, right? We're all, at our best, we're well-intentioned but flawed. And there's a humanity to that. But so I think in recognizing that Olanuke had the chops to really like toe that line, then you just like let her do it. And this kind of goes back, like I hire people who I respect and let them do great work and like try not to, I definitely have a real sensitive bullshit meter. So if anything feels artificial, like that's where I kind of come in. But otherwise, like I it's more about like recognizing the things that are working and then doing what you can to amplify them.
So speaking of bringing in people that you trust and then trusting them, talk to me a little bit about putting together a crew. I mean, you've obviously been a crew member for a very long time. You know how the set is supposed to be run. Like what was it like to assemble this crew? Did you know a lot of people beforehand? And I think especially people want to know what it was like to boss around another DP.
Well, let's start with the overview, which is that because we were shooting in Toronto and we didn't have money to bring in most of our department heads, I didn't know anyone. But the first thing I do is vet people, and not in terms of like, you can look at somebody's resume and know that they've made great work, but that doesn't tell you how they are with their crew, with their, the people above them, the people below them. And that matters so much. Like I really, I have such a firm no ask policy, which I think like that's from the almost 20 years of set experience. It's like, you want like in the best version of that, you have this like camaraderie that's almost like a family, which especially if you're leaving your family at home, like that's everything. And so I was really trying to build out both, like a very inclusive environment. I mean, this is dating back like 5 years ago. I don't think Universal originally had like ever seen anything like that. It was a very, it was a lot of women, a lot of people that don't, it just felt like more like the real world, but also people who were kind and treated each other with respect. So that was like paramount for me. And then, as far as the work goes, like Rena, for instance, I really went back and forth about, do I hire myself, like a version of myself where I just don't have to think about it because they shoot like I do? Or do I hire somebody who's going to bring something different to the table? And I think what I've learned is some of my, from like the Ryan Cooglers of the world, is some of my best set experiences actually come from when you have a bunch of different ideas, and it's always dynamic and kinetic, and you're like building off of each other as opposed to just like going to the default because that's how you do things. And so what Rena brought to the table, she comes from commercials. It's also, we were making this movie that's trying to kind of walk the line between being studio but not glossy. Like whenever it has that like glossy artificial studio thing, sometimes it like doesn't feel real to me. And it was so important to me that this felt grounded and real. But at the same time, we are making a studio movie. So it's like, how do you kind of, again, like bring the spectacle and like amplify things, but still keep a foot on the ground. And I think I knew I'm very good about keeping feet on the ground. Like I'm very naturalistic and gritty. And Rena comes from like a commercial space where you can play with colored lighting a little bit more and do like things that are a little more playful maybe. And I just thought that would be an interesting dynamic to put both of us in the room. And there were definitely times where I was like, this is not how I would do it. But I also, I know that like I never do my best work on a short leash when I'm being micromanaged. And so I was just like, if I did that to Rena, it would kill the creativity. And so I just sat back and like let her do it her way. And, there are definitely moments where I'm like this, even looking at it, where maybe there's too much haze or there's something, but at the end of the day, the collaboration was worth everything. And I do think we brought together this sort of heightened realism and naturalistic world and like landed in a really good place. How do you communicate? This is like getting in the weeds a little bit, but that's what the DGA is for. How do you communicate between each other? Like, was there storyboards? Did you look at reference movies together? You know what I mean? Like how did you guys come to like what it was going to be? We shot listed everything. I always shot list everything, not necessarily even for the shot list, but sometimes just to look at the days and how they line up. It's an organizational structure that I also recommend. Yeah. It's like even the best ADs will sometimes like think 3 pages is 3 pages is 3 pages. And like, you'll know once you look at your shot list that like one 3-page day is a million setups and one 3-page day is a oneer, and like they're not netting out the same. But also just to kind of communicate intention. Like for us, I think the first thing, we didn't look at a ton of references. Like at some point I'd probably over the years of making this movie, seen all the boxing films, but never with a like, I want to do it like this one or like that one. It was more just to kind of maybe let it wash over, but then knowing that we had so many fight sequences and they all happened in the first 2/3 of the film, like that we really had to be careful of fight fatigue. And how do we make each fight feel very different? And like, let's look at, okay, is there a place for a oner? Oh, there's absolutely a place when we rediscover Claressa, because we don't need to know anything other than the fact that she's a badass. So like, let's have fun with this one. And how can we have fun with it? And kind of like a loose plan for that fight. And then, also from a lighting perspective, well, how do we make the underground fight feel totally different than the ballroom fight, feel completely different than the Olympics fight or the China fight? And so it was more like these overview conversations. Like I wanted China to feel very high tech compared to, Flint is so analog, especially in 2012. So it was like a little more sodium vapor, monochromatic lighting in Flint, and then like colorful, LED lighting in China. So we could have, the nice thing about me being a DP, I think for Rena is like, first of all, I could scout with her needs in mind. She actually got stuck in Buffalo the first few weeks of our prep because she had a visa issue getting to Toronto. So I was like, FaceTiming with her, but being like, I got you, girl, but also like we could communicate in ways, I know like lensing or all the things that just kind of, there's a shorthand there. And then the other nice thing is that, Rena operates a little bit. That's not the thing that she's married to. She actually does a lot of live lighting with like dimmer board next to the DIT, which left me free to operate, which is something that is, so crucial to the way that I work. So that was a nice combination actually.
Yeah, that's incredible. Talk about, so Toronto for Flint. Actually, that's a good match.
No.
We did not a good match?
Not a good match.
Interesting.
And as a result, I insisted we were Flint for all of our exteriors, and actually made, I don't know if you worked with Lynn Lucibello, our line producer in Toronto, but I was like, we have to get back to Flint. We had shot some Flint the first round, but the second round we had no money. And I was like, I'm not shooting Toronto for Flint. It's actually not a good match. Flint is Flint because there's so much space, so much empty space, so much negative space. It's the American dream versus the American reality. And it's been largely sort of left behind, but also so much beauty and like, weeds growing through every crack in the most beautiful way. And you really can't match that anywhere. And it's also just this incredible community. Like even the background, the people who are cheering her on, like they're all local Flintonians, I think it's called. I'm not sure. But like you can't repeat that anywhere else. And so I would like come every time I came in under by like even half an hour, I was like Flint piggy bang, and just made sure we got back to Flint. So all the exteriors are Flint. And then, we actually ended up, and by me, I mean a little renegade crew shot like driving plates, B-roll, all the stuff to like make sure that even in the driving scenes, which we shot in Toronto, kind of turned the film into like a bit of a Marvel movie by accident because we were shooting Toronto in the summer for Flint in the winter. So like it was blue screens out every window and then plates to composite back in. And, needless to say, we never made it to either China or London. So lots of blue screen there too.
That sounds like you were really running and gunning and like pulling it together. Anyone who's ever made a movie knows it's near impossible to make a movie, and you got to really, that's the kind of work ethic that it takes. And what else do you feel like if you hadn't fought for it and you had to look at it on screen, you'd just be cringing right now? Like fighting to actually go to Flint really obviously mattered to you. Was there something else that you can think of?
It's along the same lines. It's all of the background talent. Like it was not easy. Like Canada is the most Disney. They've all had such lovely childhoods and perfect schooling, and they 100%. All, democratic medicine. And so getting the texture that you feel and see in anywhere in Michigan, but certainly Flint was tough. So I would be, like normally I'm not, one would hope that the director is not like looking at the picture background, like with a magnifying glass and be like, but I was sending back, 28 out of 30 every time.
No, there's some great directors. Ben Affleck says it all the time. He's like, the frame is only as good as the worst thing in the frame. And sometimes that's a background actor that just doesn't belong there. And it really can take you out, especially over time. Right. So I think it's actually incredibly important to get that right as well. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about, you've got it. It's in the can. Post-production. I know that this was a very fragmented process for you two for many reasons. Obviously, the global pandemic played a part of it. But you get into the editing room were you like, oh my God, I'm excited I get to remake the whole movie now? Or were you like, I'm missing a bunch of stuff and now what?
I mean, this movie is kind of a miracle in a lot of ways. Obviously, the fact that we're here now is nothing shy of a miracle. Like, we got a drama out of turnaround in a pandemic. Like, that's a miracle. But we had to cut, like, basically when we came back after the pandemic, if you guys all remember, inflation happened, crew rates went up, materials went up, and we were never getting more money. So we basically had to pre-cut, like, I don't know, 10 to 15% of the movie before I even shot it, like cut it off the page, out of my head, which it's funny, like as a DP, I can't tell you how many times I'd be like shooting scenes and thinking like, this is never going to make it in the movie. But to actually have to be the one making that call, like before you go to principal photography is terrifying. But somehow like we cut the right scenes. And so the assembly cut, like, basically is this movie, and there was nothing else. Like, it was not a choose your own adventure in the edit. There was no 3-hour director's cut. Like, the assembly cut was, I think, 1 hour 51 minutes. This is 1 hour 47. Like, it's, you know, and Harry did a beautiful job. To his credit, I also like, he's such a talented editor, and he cut Minari. He's got a real, again, sensibility for like humanity and authenticity. So it was already in pretty good shape. And then for me, it was exciting. Like this is the part that I hadn't gotten to do, as I'd done a little television, obviously, but you just sort of hand it off to everybody else. But to be able to finish the thing that I'd had in my head the whole time, as I wanted to, with the music choices I wanted to, with the, like, it was really a gift. I don't sit still well, as you might not be surprised about. So I would be like bouncing off the walls in the edit room, but I really enjoyed every moment of it. And then, you know, even working with Tamara Kali on the score, which I think she did such a beautiful job. Like, I had, like, it's fun. It's fun to learn again and grow again and feel like you are, you know, challenging yourself. So I really did enjoy the post process. And yeah, like actually like making the movie, whether it was the principal or post, like all of it was it was really like an amazing, like fulfilling and like lovely collaboration with everybody. And so it was just all the other stuff, the world.
Can you talk a little bit about music? Because I love to talk about score as in not a finishing touch, but an essential part of like filmmaking. I think especially when there's someone like you comes from the technical side of it, leaves set, doesn't go into that room. Is that something instinctually that you understood? Were you on a learning curve? Like, talk a little bit about how important you obviously came to find that to be.
Yeah, it was such a learning curve, and it was interesting. Like the analogy I would make is that I've worked with directors who aren't particularly technical as a DP. And it's like they can point to what they want, but they don't understand the camera or the lensing. They don't even necessarily know what like a wide lens versus a long lens is, or anamorphic versus spherical. And it's like, obviously I'm trying to like help them understand, but it's a little bit of like pointing at things. And sometimes they truly are like, they're like, I like this and this. And you're like, well, they're literally the opposite, but okay. So for me working with Tamara, like I don't come from any real music background. And so I had this sense of like, I didn't want it to feel schmaltzy. I always wanted the music to kind of support the imagery and support the, you know, narrative emotion and the stakes of the scene, but not tell people how to feel. And yet, you know, there are things like when you're watching, you know, the moment, either like the moment right when she wins, that minute of like everybody seeing Claressa win, you have 1 minute to make people like feel all the things. And like the score really like attenuating that, like one version brings people to tears and one version doesn't, you know, and like how far do you push it before you cut to black and you're putting them back in reality and all of those things. But yeah, it was really cool to start to understand that, and how really like when it's done well, the score just amplifies everything. I've found like as an audience member, as soon as I'm being told how to feel, I like turn against the movie. I get really mad. So my hope is that we found this balance where it amplifies things without like doing the lifting for the movie itself.
I fully like to be manipulated personally. We're basically out of time, but you did just say something that made me think. I wanted to ask you about, you said, you know, sometimes this brings you people to tears and other times it won't. Did you test it? Like, who did you show it to? Like, what did you have friends and family? Like, how did you know it worked? Yeah. I think directors are so afraid of showing the baby, because you're like, oh my God, I'm going to get criticized. I have to give over. It's the hardest moment I find as a director is being like, okay, now I have to be like, ta-da, this is it. And people, it might not work. So like, can you talk just as our last thing? Because you got to do it. I will just say, like, it's necessary part of the process. How did it go for you? And this will be our last question.
There were 3 stages of showing it to people, and let's end with the last one, which was Claressa, which was the one that mattered the most to me. But so first in the edit, we did like a little friends and family screening, and Harry said, "Don't invite." He basically was like, I'm trying to remember. It was no directors, no writers. And his reasoning was like, anybody who creates at that level is going to make like turn your movie into their movie and like, break your heart in every possible way. Like probably can't even see your movie because they're so eager to like give you, their comedic timing and their this and their that. And he wasn't wrong. Like I think because our second screening, we let them into the room and it was a different vibe. But I was generally excited about getting people's opinions. Like, I think that's something that, I'm making this to be seen by other people. And like, especially this film, which I'm so grateful that we're going to get a wide release. It's everything I wanted for it. Like, I don't want to preach to the choir. I want to actually reach across the aisle with this movie and get people who like wouldn't necessarily expect to see this story to walk a mile in Claressa's shoes. And in order to do that, you really have to find out what those people, are responding to and aren't. So I was kind of eager to get feedback. I also, it's easy for me to say that because it went really well. Our test screening, our first test screening, or our only test screening actually, it's a 300 person recruit. I was certainly nervous. I was terrified. I feel like I've made the thing in such a bubble for a number of reasons, but like, it was really the first exposure to everybody, to the world. And it went amazingly. And actually one of the things that came out of it, like we didn't change much because nobody was confused. People liked all of our characters. Like it couldn't have gone better. But like I had tried, because there are so many kind of almost like not false endings, but I basically had kept the chirons really tight. There was only 2 of them and people wanted to know more. And like, they were like, what's Jason doing now? Where's Claire? Like, and so what became that like 6 chiron, photographs or whatever, came from the test screening. And I think that was actually such a good call. And there were other, like a couple, changing the title, which was very hard for me to let go of, but like, that was something we learned is like the original title of the film was Flint Strong. And it makes so much sense once you've seen the film. But people couldn't get past that, it's going to be about the water crisis. It was going to be depressing. And so I had to give that up as much as I wanted to rebrand Flint with this like inspirational messaging, which I guess we still get to do. But yeah, no, it was really helpful. And then the last for me, the biggest was showing Claressa finally after, all this time. And I was like, I could not have been more nervous.
Ooh, that just made me really emotional.
It was really emotional and like, again, the best possible way. Like the second I realized that she was into it, I asked if I could shoot it. And it's like, it's the thing I will take with me to the grave. She was so moved by the film and loved the film, but also just like, she was like, I can't, she's like, I can't, that's my life. She's like, that's my life. And, people need to see this movie. And it was just, it went really well.
Oh, it's such a great way to end this conversation is to understand the responsibility it is to put someone's real life on film and just to hold that. Let's hold space for that right now. And for Claressa, it's really a gift that she gave you. And that really moves me that you guys had that experience. So congratulations again. Thank you all for sticking around for this conversation.
You. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. The Director's Cut is available wherever you listen to podcasts. And please share, subscribe, rate, and review. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you can help fellow film buffs find the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America.